As you can see, it can happen to anyone. When you ride your bike, the question is not if, the question is when. And when terrible happens and you crash and you damage your pride and joy, there's nothing worse than looking at your bike which is damaged. So instead of buying new components and spending fortune, we're going to take a look what can be fixed and what can be salvaged, what can be replaced. We're going to take a look at a scratch repairs, we're going to replace some broken components, and in the end we'll see what can be recovered. In today's video, we're fixing rare mechs. Welcome to the i2GP YouTube channel. So today we're looking at two examples. One where, as you can see, it looks fairly okay, but what has happened? Ta-da! That bit has snapped off, and that was caused by crash. So obviously that's already, I've polished that bit and I'm going to paint it to make it look nice, but sadly that's beyond repair. So what we're going to do, we're going to take another rare mech and we're going to swap this part. So that one, again, I'm doing some project where I'm trying to polish it, including that bit, but that's going to be other videos. But this one here, that linkage snap here, so I'm going to remove that bit. So you can remove it by drilling either 1.5 or 2mm hole in it and just tap it from the top, so that pin is gonna come out. And also that bit here, I'm going to drill again a pilot hole 2mm in that area and then tap it out. So that bit here, I'm not going to drill anything, I'm just gonna make incision on the side and split it open, because obviously that's going to bin. And then ideally, if you don't have to drill anything, better not to drill. And then obviously we can push that pin out using pliers and that can come out. So I'm going to take them out and see how everything goes together. So ideally what you would do, just place it on a stable place and just find a center. Something like that. And I'm using, in this case here, 1.5mm drill, but for this bit here I use 2mm, and then what I do, I use same bolt or screws I'm using for putting things together. I can screw that in using Loctite and then cut the top bit off and polish it and then touch it up with paint. Just to make it nice, because with plastic you can melt a little bit of plastic on top of it, or polymer, whereas with metal it's quite difficult to seal that off completely. So let's drill it out. And that's why this is obviously how much you need to drill out. And then I got one drill bit which obviously is broke before, so that sits nicely. And then obviously I've upgraded my hammer. You can just say tap it out. So as you can see, that's coming out. Just like that. And that's it, obviously that's going to be in because that cannot be repaired, but we've got a nicely preserved bit. Obviously I'm going to draw that bit out now, but as I've mentioned before, you got these two rubber bits. That's polymer, and obviously you got aluminium or steel insert, which obviously that bit sits inside and move freely. There was no bearings in it, nothing, and the only and it's fairly dry, so the only two bits which keeping water away are these two split O-rings, and that's it like that. If you were to damage it, so you can use mechanical R8000 or 9100 Durace. Same thing, you can use for Ultegra, you can use Durace body, or you can use a Ultegra body on Durace, so that's fairly interchangeable for 11 speed. Sadly for 12 speed you have to find like for like, so Durace only adapts or accepts Durace, Ultegra only Ultegra, and the 105 I'm doing tests, so I'm bidding on eBay for a broken 105 Di2, with a broken bit here. So if I get it, I'll try to source also mechanical 105 and see if I can replace the bit. If not, I can always use a servo for something else. So yeah, let's drill this bit out. Again, roughly find the middle. As I can see, that's hollow. And if you're wondering if that's safe, so that's your opening at the bottom. And if you look on Derailleur has a hollowed out top bit as well, and has a little cap at the top. So that's plenty of space and meat on it. So I wouldn't worry about that at all. So with that one, because obviously that's slightly awkward position, and you have to have a little bit of space, what I usually do, I would put that on a vise and put a 7 or 6 millimeter socket, and so obviously that has something to rest, and then we're gonna tap it out. So I'm going to tap it out. Actually, I can try, see if that's going to work, at least to start with. Yeah, so as you can see, that's already moving. So that's 6 millimeter socket. You can just place it underneath. And just like that, that comes out. So that's a fully working bit, which I'm going to place on this body, and then that bit here, obviously I'm going to just use the pliers. Number one, remove that steel collar, and then obviously hold it in place and tap the pin out so it's nice and visible. Then I'm going to just say install everything from this side, and that one here again, because obviously that can be damaged. I'm just gonna cut incision on the side and split it open. So that bit has been successfully removed. As you can see, bit of a brute force. But what you do, obviously, you need to peel that metal bit off first, and then you can hold it either in pliers or in a vise, and then again place a 6 millimeter socket and just tap it out slightly. It doesn't sit, obviously. The only thing it's holding in place is just the friction of this incision or teeth here. So that's the only thing which keeps it in place. So it's not very solid, but yeah, it does work. Finally, and that should just say pop out like that. So as you can see, that's hollow, and you got a either brass or bronze bushing pushed into aluminium. So obviously that one is healthy, so we're just gonna put that one in and tap it in, because obviously that is holding place on that spline. So that spline locks in here, and then you got that little pin here, but as you can see, that's barely visible. So I haven't had issues. Arguably you would have to replace it, so that's that bit here, but again, I've done it before, haven't had any issues. If you decided to do it, obviously you have to take responsibility and risk, but I've been riding that for a year or so. Just for full disclosure, apart from my latest 12 speeds rare mech, which is a second hand but hasn't been repaired, all my Di2 is repaired, and I haven't had any issues to date. So yeah, so that's gonna go in. We can just tap that in like that. Then we're going to place that bit here and use that pin, put it here, and then circle back in, and then we got a fully working mech. But before I do it, I'm just gonna clean it nicely and then put a little bit of grease And also because there was a scratch here, so I'm gonna touch it up as I got a exposure to that bit. And that here I'm going to prime it with a primer, then I'm gonna sand it with a 800, or actually no, 1200 grit to that edge here. So if you're painting, always try to match with the color where you got a edge. So this is where obviously naturally light breaks, so even if you got slightly different shade of paint, it should work nicely. And then I'm going to go with a 1500 or 2000 paper all over, and then hit it with a clear coat, so that should be barely noticeable. So there you got a bit of a glare, but yeah, let me clean it and we're gonna put it together. So this is now been primed, and I've cleaned it again and masked it. Now I'm going to hit it with paint, so I use Daytona Grey Audi. That's a color, it's fairly similar. And when you masking edge, make sure obviously it's not a sharp edge, so obviously lift the paper slightly, and then try to not to spray it this way. Obviously try to spray it from the top, and just a very fine coat, so obviously you're not going to end up with a line. And obviously I'm doing 2 at the time, so this is result. So as you can see, it's very shiny, but you can still see a bit of a line, but as soon as that dries out, it should be barely visible. And also because obviously that's facing down, that's okay. And that's the second one. And a bit on the top. Again, now I'm gonna wait until that dries for about 10-20 minutes, and then I'm gonna unmask it, and then I'm going to paint entire linkage with a clear coat, so it's there is no exposed edges. Obviously the things can peel off, and also you won't be able to see the edge when I finish painting with the color. See, now that's, let me just, so you can see a bit of a scratch at the top, but obviously that was just a hit with 1500 paper. So as soon as that off-gases slightly, or the solvents evaporate, then I'm gonna hit everything with a clear coat, and that should be ready to go. So as you can see, that one's done. Obviously that's a DIY job, so there's a couple of dust particles. Here you can see transition, but I didn't want to damage the Ultegra logo, but down the bottom it looks okayish. Definitely much better than scratched, and obviously from distance you could barely notice anything. Just don't want to touch it. And obviously that one here, obviously because I haven't had to do anything at the top, that looks much better. So I'm gonna leave it for 24 hours to cure, and then I'm gonna put everything together. So that one is ready to go, because that was only scratched, and then the servo need repairing, whereas that one, the servo was unopened, very unusual. So it's been 24 hours since I resprayed it. As you can see, that's nice and dry, or you cannot see if it's dry, but you have to take my word on it. Nice and shiny. Yeah, so the next step is to put everything together. So we're going to reinstall that bit first, then inner link, and then servo and the cage. So with that, there was no need for grease. We installing that in this bit, and just like that. And obviously that can be tapped in. I just use a punch, but just so we don't scratch any paint, it's better to put something soft. And just like that. So that needs to be slightly recessed. Then what we're going to do first is to install servo. And I'm just gonna put these bolts without any Loctite, just to keep it in place, but I'm gonna take it apart again. That should do. Then you can hook up this spring. Then you can attach it to the bottom of a servo, just like that. And then obviously that goes in here, just like that. But here we do have 2 O-rings, so why not put some grease? Not much, just a little bit. And then obviously the split faces down, so 1, second one, and then when you install it you need to pay attention so you're not going to catch these O-rings, so they have to stay in place. So just double check everything is nicely aligned. You can just then press this as a location wise. And then I just need to leave this come off. Make sure everything moves nice and smooth. So as you can see, that's supposed to be return motion of your rear mag. If that moves slowly, that means obviously this pin is seized, because obviously that's the one where you got metal. So after you can inspect all edges, nothing sticks out, and then you can just hammer it in, and because obviously that's plastic, the risk of damaging is very low. And that's enough, plenty. That still moves. Let's install cage. So there's plenty of factory grease, so we don't have to top it up. Spring goes in. Cam goes in. And like I said, I'm not using Loctite currently because that's just for testing. So when I'm happy everything is working fine, then I'm going to reinstall everything using Loctite. You never know, technically speaking everything is fresh, but to be on the safe side, I will test on the bike anyway. So that's all replaced. As you can see, there's a bit of a scratching, but it's not that bad. Only thing left to do is to shift. And that's it. This is how you can fix scratch rear mag and obviously replace this linkage. You can also replace this one if you want, depending obviously how many steps you want to go through. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you want to know more, or if there's anything else you want to cover, do let me know. Thanks, and until next time.